Welcome to Future Focus, a financial strategies podcast where we make the complex simple. My name is Troy Branch. I'm joined here again by my colleague, Keali French.
Hello.
And Jacob Messick.
Troy, how's it going?
You're not going to do it? I said, okay. All right. No, that's fine.
No,
that's okay. All right.
No, I don't want to mess up your intro. Keep going. You're doing good.
So we're on take like I don't know how many, so let's just go ahead and not tempt fate.
Take one.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to sort of re-engage with our business owner segment. If you remember, if you don't remember, you can go back to episode 22. In fact, if you haven't, if you're finding this for the first time, be sure to go back and check out all of the 21 or 22 or so episodes before this one. So we're going to re-engage on our business owner segment. And if you remember, we talked about business owners, we talked about cash flow, we talked about taxes, we talked about how those things are influenced by the type of entity a business owner might choose, whether it's an S corp, C corp, LLC, taxes, whatever you want. That's sort of where we started with this idea of focusing in on the business owner, and the idea was that first choice, the type of entity, we want to stop and think about that a little bit, because oftentimes that choice is kind of made in haste, but can have some significant consequences. So you should go back and check out episode 22 if that sort of piques your interest. So for today's episode, we're going to dig into, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to define it first. Enterprise value. That's a couple of fancy words of saying, what's my business worth? What value does my business have? What valuation might someone ascribe to my business? So when we talk about enterprise value, that's what we're looking at. But we're looking at enterprise value and how that's affected, especially when we compare it to, or we add in this idea of who are the people that drive that enterprise value. So we're going to focus in on overall enterprise value. How do I make the business more valuable? But we're also going to look through the lens of who are those people that help drive that value. And spoiler alert, sometimes it's the business owners, but a lot of times it's not the business owner. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yep.
We good?
And hey, nicely done on enterprise value, rolling right into the definition.
Thank you.
That's a good example of how to stay out of the jargon jar.
Now,
so,
just
nice little golf clap so we don't mess up the mics.
So take it for sound people are like, stop. So take it for what it is. Like just take that as the example of rolling into it is not saying it and then go, oh yeah, but wait, nope, goes in the jar.
I get it. We want a rolling stop sign.
All right, there you go. Okay, so let's talk. I'm gonna ask you guys a question, like we typically do, and admittedly, like we've spoiler alert, we sometimes meet ahead of time, right? And this
Never.
is gonna be
Not usually. Troy doesn't like it.
I actually don't like meeting ahead of time because I like it natural but I've been recently outvoted on not meeting ahead of time. But it's not bad. Trust me. It'll be good. It'll still feel authentic. All right. So
I didn't know you were gonna say that, so we're already off.
Color me shocked.
Color me shocked
We're
that you didn't know I was
already
going to say
off,
that.
Nope.
It's almost like a checklist of like, what can I say that you guys are not expecting me to say? Anyway, okay. So let's dive into this concept of enterprise value and the people that help drive that value. Okay. So I'm just going to ask you just a question. Are business owners retaining the people who drive enterprise value? Now that's a really broad question, I know. You all right?
Yeah.
You all right?
I'm good.
All right. It's a really broad question, but react. Like, what do you guys think?
React, Jacob.
You going first?
No,
or am I?
after
We rock,
you.
paper, scissors. All right. Well, to take that broad question, I'm gonna
Just answer the question.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna answer your question with a couple questions that maybe kind of narrows it down a little bit. So, questions to answer your question. So, why is it important to retain key employees? And then, what's the impact when you lose the wrong employee?
Okay.
So, maybe that helps us narrow it down. So, that first part, why is it important to retain a key employee?
So
I just want to note that we're just disregarding what I said. Go.
No, we're answering your
Continue.
question.
Why is it important to retain a key employee? Well, enterprise value is really driven by durability, not just profitability. And durability really has to do with retaining your top key talent, the people that are actually driving the value in your business. So it's really important that we're identifying those people who's actually driving that value, who's important to your operation, and making sure that we're not only compensating them, but actually driving the goal of retention there, because compensation is more about just retention. It doesn't equal retention. You have to have actual plans in place to keep people involved in your business and keep people motivated to be there. I'd leave it there, but key persons are essentially, you need to identify exactly who that person is. If your key person didn't show up to work tomorrow, what would happen in your business? You first need to think about who that person is. If your owner can't really identify who that person is, you're looking at them. They're usually that person.
That's
Very
In my
insightful.
opinion.
that feels like it's that's something that our friend Troy would say.
Absolutely.
That's
No,
well,
I think that's right. I mean, because you lose the wrong individual, that wrong key person. Hey, that can be costly. We know we see the studies out there that the replacement cost to replace a key individual could cost 150% to 200% of that salary for the key role. So it's very important to keep those individuals that are important to the growth of the business happy and at that place.
And it's more than just like, when you think of retention, you think of compensation. But again, compensation does not equal retention. You have programs put in place like 401ks or qualified plans, which are plans that you compensate every employee, not necessarily equally, but they're all the same
So
that
compensation.
was a really cool. You almost got a full breath out, but go ahead.
Well, I didn't
You don't have
realize
to
I'm
put
not
one in.
allowed to
It's
breathe
good.
in
It's
between
good.
my definitions.
No, that's perfect because I had in my notes down here kind of exactly what you're saying, what we're diving into now, the broad-based benefits versus maybe the more selective benefits. And like what you had mentioned, those broad-based benefits that that have to benefit the entire workforce or those individuals that are eligible for that benefit, whether it's a 401k, 403b, simple or SEP IRA, all those things we've talked about before. We've laid the groundwork. Yeah, season 1, we've laid the groundwork, so no pebbles go in the jar. But those are important, from being competitive in the marketplace. But like as you were mentioning, that's isn't a way to reward those select individuals that maybe you want to make sure I'm keeping them at this business.
And like these qualified plans, which I've already defined, essentially they don't really retain people. Like, yes, it is a great motivator to have that compensation, but you're not aligning your employees' goals with the goals of the company. So when we're talking about that selective compensation, we're targeting those key individuals that actually drive the value, and we're giving them incentives to stay with us and to have the same goals that the company may have. So we're thinking in terms of like a deferred compensation you're not getting today, but you're getting at some point in the future. When we have a deferred compensation like that, we're aligning you with the company and making you think more long term. If it's based on, for example, like share profitability, which is a huge driver for shareholders, well, we can align our compensation with the profit of the share so that the employee is motivated to increase the value of the share.
Yeah, with that selective executive benefits, hey, you can, like you said, flexible design. So you can structure it to meet the benefits based off performance or profitability or long-term goals. You can be selective to say, hey, I want to set up something to reward this individual who's truly driving and a key contributor to the business. So, it's a way to create that golden handcuff on that individual to make sure that they're stickier and they stay and they have some objective to help grow the business long term, which, like what you were mentioning, to help then drive the value of that business for the business owner.
Yeah, and the reason why that this is important, we will often work with, say, a company that does valuation, right? Like they come in and a business owner may say, "What's my business worth?" And that's usually one of the key hurdles to sort of to figure out what's my business worth. And what they will tell you is that there's a couple of factors that makes that drives enterprise value as it relates to as it relates to having sort of plans in place, right? Whether that be a succession plan that we've talked about in the past, a buy-sell agreement, or some type of plan, in place that if something were to happen, the business would be able to continue. And so that's one thing that we know drives value outside of the obvious stuff. Like, hey, you grow top line revenue, or you grow bottom line revenue. That is net revenue. That's what you get to put in your pocket. Then you're going to grow your value. But that's any business, right? What valuation companies will tell you though is if you have a plan of succession in place, but then also surprisingly, well, if you do it long enough, it's not surprising. And if you think about it, but surprisingly, if I have a plan in place that contemplates key employees sticking around as the business is sold, or if you're going to be approached for the potential for the potential sale of your business, that makes your business more valuable. Because think about it: if you're someone who's going to walk in and go buy a business, do you want to do you want the business? If you how much are you willing to pay for the business if you know the moment when you write your check and you say thanks, I own the business now, all of the key employees are out the door because they don't like you, or they're not incented, or this sale didn't sort of help them, right? So thinking about who the key employees, think about who those key people are, and properly rewarding them drives that enterprise value.
Absolutely. That was a very insightful insight from our host. Insightful insight.
I wasn't going to point it out, but
from our host Troy Branch. So no, I'm gonna insightful insight.
I don't like
insightful.
talking.
Just a little bit repetitive there.
No, people don't think it, but I don't.
So with all that in mind, here, if I'm a business owner, I'm listening to this conversation. Here's a question to ask yourself: are you using that right? As we're talking about broad-based and selective benefits, are you using the right mix of benefits to retain the people that matter most to your business? I think that's the question you should, as a business owner, start thinking to yourself.
Now, it doesn't mean that everyone doesn't matter. It just means that there are select few typically that drive an inordinate amount of business value. Like that's who you're trying to identify.
Yeah, I'm not looking to just attain this talent pool, these key individuals, but I want to reward them and retain them for a long term to help my business grow.
And you also want to make it hurt for them to leave. Make it harder for competitors to come in and poach your people, because if you make it so that they might lose something or that they're not going to get the same kind of compensation anywhere else, it makes it a lot harder for them to go anywhere.
Well, that actually drives me to the next question, because one of the other things that you're also doing is you're trying to eliminate what can be and oftentimes is your greatest competitor, right? By keeping them around. Yep. So even if you've identified the right people, you still have this. You still typically can have this issue of I've identified the right people, but it's still the business owner, right? And so now we're going to focus in. If I get this to move, there we go. So now we're going to focus in on the business owner. Where's that question at? I want to make sure I get the right question. Sorry.
You want me to fill some airtime?
No, you're good. Okay. So when we think about the business owner, and we think about them being that integral part, and like you said, if a business owner can identify a key person, hold up a mirror, it's probably them, right? So with that being the backdrop, is the business better driven by systems or by the unique talent of the business owner?
I'd say it's better when it's driven by systems. Do you want me to elaborate, or do you want to answer too?
I would agree. I'll let you elaborate. But just know we're keeping an eye on the pebbles. Any big words and into the jar. So
okay. Well, when a business is driven by the owner, I feel like the business is really limited to the capacity of that owner, to their ability to remember and maintain everything in their systems. When you have systems actually in place, you're no longer relying on that centralized person to make all the decisions, to make sure you're driving the business in a certain way. It kind of automates itself, which allows the owner to free themselves to do more important things, whether that's expanding the vision of the business or starting a new business. You want your business to be able to run with and without you. And I think systems are the only way to do that. You can't become too reliant on that one person, even if that one person is the owner.
I would say whether it's an owner or a key employee, being able to, doing things on a system, hey, you can scale it, you can grow, let you be a little bit more efficient and consistent, and then from a business owner perspective, hey, like you said, they can not have to deal so much with the day-to-day operations, that maybe their time's better suited in another manner. Let them focus on what they need to focus and get the right people to help from the operational standpoint. So yeah, if it's because, like, I know as we were talking, from a business owner's perspective, does it make sense to spend 12, 14, 16 hours of your day working inside your business, or does it make more sense getting the right individuals to free up your time to do things that the business needs you to do in a different capacity?
And not just that, systems can really build in some redundancy, which when you think of redundancy, you don't really think of that as a good thing. But in a business, it can be a really great thing, because you want people to be cross-trained to be able to step into positions of key persons, so that if that key person didn't show up that one day, they can actually have the business continue on without them. So it builds in that redundancy. It builds in those safety like nets that you can have if something doesn't go wrong or if somebody doesn't show up.
And I like to think about it in terms of, I think I say this a lot, like one of the challenges that we find when you start listing out all the problems of business owners, one of the chief ones, and when you say it, people look at you like you're crazy, in that you want to help the business owner learn to live independent of their business, right? Like, I'm doing things so like in your description, 12, 14, 16 hours you're working in the business, and you do that great, and you may operate this business great, but without systems and without scalability, it's just this, and it's only this. So how do you live? Like, how do you reduce that risk by helping them live outside of their business, create the systems, develop scalability, empower and entrust those key employees, which allows that business owner to not necessarily pull back, but pull back pull back from day to day that sort of prohibits them from scaling up and scaling outside of their business.
Yeah, it's that whole circle. To do that, you got to get the right people. Why do you get the right people? So you get your business to grow. Why do you want your business to grow? So your business is valued and can grow and be worth more. So when it's time that if you wanted to leave the business and sell the business, you're able to capitalize on what that might be. And since I'm full of questions here today, the question that I have, where I'm thinking, hey, if I'm a business owner listening to this conversation on this particular topic. So if you're a business owner, and if you stepped away for, let's say, 30 days, whether it was intentional or unintentional, how much of that business will be able to continue to run smoothly in your absence? And maybe that gets the business owner thinking, hey, how's the business going to do if I'm not here for even a short period of time?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you planned that, but that actually is a great segue into question number 3.
I didn't, but with us doing so many of these together, it's just
it's just the yin and the yang.
We're just in sync, know. I say sandwich, you say
What?
What? Why would you say sandwich? Why not like peanut butter and
yeah.
jelly?
Because peanut butter and jelly is easy. Sandwich.
Yeah, but peanut butter and jelly, that makes
What word
anyway.
were you thinking?
All right.
I want to know the other half
I
of
say
that.
sandwich. I don't know. Hot, cold.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to work on that.
Yeah. So we're not that much. Anyway.
All right.
Sandwich. Okay.
Just for that, I'm gonna close the book for the last part of this conversation. You're getting Jacob with no notes, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, this should be good.
Yeah.
Because who knows what's going to end up happening.
No confidence.
I'm here to watch.
No. All right.
All right, so that was actually, it was a good segue into question number 3 when we, so now if you think about it, we've sort of identified a key person and why that part is important. We want to identify, helping the business owner, if they're the key person, generate scalability with processes that, again, increases value. Now, the final thing is we want to think about, you alluded to whether they're going to be away for 30 days, whether that's voluntary or involuntary. Well, that oftentimes leads to a discussion of how does this continue for that business owner and their family? Like, what does that enterprise value help drive in identifying key persons? How does that help drive all those things as it relates to the business value, the business owner, and the business owner's family?
I'm gonna need you to go first.
No, you don't have the notes. Let's hear about it.
Thinking of sandwiches. I thought you would have said cheesesteak since we got cheese. Oh, come on, we're cheesesteak. If we
I know a cheesesteak.
We got to give
Which,
a thumbs
by the way, we got to talk off camera. Like, I think I'm due some meat and some scrapple.
So we're some cheesesteak. I mean, we got some cheesesteak fans out there, and you know who you are.
So any Eastern Pennsylvania folks, like, they're like, did he just say scrapple? Yes, he just said scrapple.
Okay, I got lost now. Reiterate the question.
All right. What happens if, like, what should people be considering if the business owner is gone? Like, how does that, like, what should they be planning for and thinking about if the business owner is gone, voluntary or involuntarily?
Well, you got to make sure your business can actually continue on without you. Again, if you find out that the key person is the owner, we need to make sure that there are no disruptions financially or strategically in the business. Because if you're no longer there as the owner, there's a chance that, morale can go down because you're gone for too long and other management's in place that maybe doesn't do as good of a job as you, or maybe people don't like them as much as you, or maybe customers aren't willing to do business with anybody else. So you need to make sure that there are contingencies put into place that your business can continue on if you're no longer there. And a lot of owners don't really like to think about that. You can ask them, okay, how do you expect the business to go on when you're no longer a part of it? And they'll go, what do you mean? I'm always going to be a part of it. It's my business. It's my baby. But the reality is you're not always going to be a part of it. The business will continue on with or without you. It just is, how do you want that to look when you're no longer there? So I think it's really important to not only just identify your key persons, make sure that they have the tools in place so that they can continue the business in a way that you expect it to be continued at the level you expect it to be continued.
I love that question, by the way.
And I think the part that I was going to answer is what you just ended on, those tools in place. So let's say something drastically happened to the business owner. Do you have key person life insurance to give the business those dollars to go out and get the next person to take over those replacement tasks that they may need to fill? Or it might be disability income insurance that we've talked about in the past as well, where business owner, if they become disabled, maybe that business owner is individually, they have individual DI to cover income replacement, but I'm thinking like business overhead expense. So something happens to the business owner, hey, that BOE, the business owner expense policy, is providing some benefit to help the business pay those expenses. Then if something truly drastically happened to the business owner, buy-sell agreement. If something happened to the business owner, do they have a buy-sell agreement in place? Are they funding that with life insurance that now gives that new buying owner the dollars to then buy out the business so that they can continue and take over the business in the approach that they wanted to. So those tools, the key person life insurance, the buy-sell planning, the business overhead expense from a disability, those type of tools I think are things to consider and take a look at.
And tie it back into everything that we've just talked about, making sure that you have the systems in place so that your business can continue how you want it to, and making sure your key people are properly compensated so that they stay when you are no longer a part of it, so they can have that buy-sell agreement or have that continuation plan.
Or you're setting something up for those key individuals that, okay, because you're doing some type of retention bonus, instead of it being a lump sum bonus in cash now, maybe you're doing it as a long-term type of a bonus. So then it gives them the funds that if that key person is planning to take over the business, now they have some capital to buy in and help maybe facilitate some level of a buy-sell. Mm-hmm. So it's giving those key persons those funds needed for those future goals of the success of the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's to bring it sort of full circle. Like, once you understand the importance of the key person, and by the way, we sort of left this out. When you talk to, at least when I've had the occasion to speak directly to a business owner, and I ask them the question that we sort of opened up with, have you thought about what would happen if your key employee, and you might even point to if Sally or Billy or Bobby or whoever didn't show up to work tomorrow. Like, if they've identified them as the key person, they don't want any part of those thoughts. Like, it visibly shakes them, like, because they understand that man, if they're not there, we got a problem, or I got a problem. And if you know that, then the next question is what have you done to what have you done to address those issues? So that becomes very, very important for all the things, because at the end, the key person may be helps you build the systems, is the person that ends up buying you out. Is the person that you may want to not have be your competitor. So when you do sell it, it's at a better price. I just heard this today, like being in having these things in place to drive enterprise value also helps the business owner understand what's my number, because maybe it's not as high as I need it to be. And the business, selling the business, so understanding what my number is and what I need to get out of the business may not be, I need to get the absolute highest number. And that again provides some flexibility and helps with the idea of the key employee and drive that enterprise value.
And I think that's why having a conversation with a financial professional on a regular basis gets you thinking about these questions, gets you thinking about, hey, what does it take for me to do the next thing? And what do I want to accomplish inside the business and outside the business from a business owner perspective?
You just reminded me. We should always say, like we always do, everything we've talked about. I don't know how many minutes we've been going, but everything we've talked about is absolutely educational. It's not a specific recommendation. Even the idea of seeing a financial professional is just that. Just sort of general education that when you're dealing and moving around in these particular items, wrestling with these ideas, a financial professional could be helpful, can be helpful for that educational piece. All right, thanks everyone. I think we're gonna stop there, and then we're gonna next time when we get to the third episode of our business owner arc. We're going to talk about income. We're going to talk about control and legacy and all those things that that business owners tend to think about as they move through their business. They've grown their business. Now, what kind of impact do I want to leave in my community, for my family, and whoever else may be reliant on the value or the value and legacy of of the business. So. We'll see you next time. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you to like and subscribe so you can be aware of when our new episodes release. If you comment down below, we love that, and certainly be aware that every 5th episode, so episode 25, we do a listener episode, and we rely on those comments. So please keep them coming. Ask your questions in the comments below, and you may find us using it on one of our listener episodes. Thanks again. This is Future Focus. You have a great day.